What's up? This is Chucky D. Thanks to everybody that's watched my YouTube and Facebook guitar cover videos. Anyways, I'm going to do a video of 10 of my favorite metal albums of all time. And I mean, I have so many favorites. I just picked 10 that I really love, and I'm going to put them in a top 10 order just because, for video's sake, I guess. I just love to spread the gospel of heavy metal music, so I just decided to do this video. Why not? So, all right. The first CD we have is, I don't know if you can see these on the video, Anthrax, Among the Living, 1986. This is one of the supreme thrash metal albums of that era, at least in my opinion. From beginning to end, this album is just raw energy. It has a really almost a live feel to it. There's not like tons of extra production on the drums and the guitar sounds. It's very just, kind of, I think, emulated to sound like live. It's the songwriting's amazing. The songs are amazing. There's so much riffs, so much, rhythm. Songs like Indians, oh my God, one of my all-time favorite songs ever. The title track, Among the Living, based on The Stand from Stephen King. It's an amazing album. One of the greatest thrash metal albums ever made, at least in my opinion. Huge influence on me when I was a kid. I remember when I first got this, I actually got it on cassette and I just jammed it in my stereo, and I had it in my Walkman on the way to school for a long time. It's a great album. And if somebody hasn't really gotten into Anthrax before, and you want to maybe get into them because they're such an awesome band, this is Among the Living is a great starting point. All right, that was number 10. Number 9, Sepultura, Arise. And I don't know if you can see the picture on the back there to this video. They're badass motherfuckers. Now this album is, I remember it was a Friday or Saturday night, 1991. I was 16, It's like 1 in the morning in Headbangers Ball, and I had heard about Sepultura. I'd never actually heard them before. And bam, Triple Thrash Threat, Headbangers Ball. They played the video of Dead Embryonic Cells, and it was just, I was so fucking blown away. And I think the thing the way I like to talk about this album is it was so state of the art sounding. It was so clear, it was so fast, so heavy, but it was so clear. The production was so clear. It was really cool, that video. They actually, showed the guitar players playing and the drummer playing, in different clips. And at that time, back in 91, it wasn't the internet, and me just starting to really kind of get my own on the guitar. I was always just desperate to see what these the songs looked like on the guitar. And this band, like I said, I'd never actually heard them before. And I actually got to see with the guitars. It just inspired me tremendously. I think 2 days later, I went and bought the cassette, and I just worshipped this album. And still to this day, if you put this in, I guarantee you, people that aren't familiar with metal, I could put this in right now in the year 2021, and I could they would think it was made yesterday. It sounds so good. It's amazing album from beginning to end. Every song, I think it was way ahead of its time because it was a great mix between, kind of like a Slayer vibe, thrash vibe. It was like at the edges of these different borders, but it didn't cross them. It wasn't too heavy, but it was fucking heavy, but it wasn't too heavy. Great album. I can't say enough about Sepultura, Arise. All right, now here we go. I guess this would be number 8. Slayer, Hell Awaits, 1985. I hope this comes up in the video, that picture. Look at those fucking guys. This album, I remember this album when I went to get it. You couldn't buy this in the CD store. I actually had to order this thing. It took like a month. I had to order this, you know, back when I got it, 91, 92. Even at that time, I had to order the thing. Anyways, this to me, Slayer Hell Awaits, is kind of the first precursor to death metal. It's not death metal, but it's like the first real true album that was so fast and heavy and brutal. It had really dark lyrics, and although the production isn't, you know, from today's standards amazing, is just captured that raw energy of Slayer. Just, you know, you can just tell, you know, back then, this is their second album, that there was so much more to come. When there was so much more to come. For me personally, Hell Awaits those. I think their darkest album and their closest album that maybe almost, you know, that almost goes to death metal. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's just a sonic punch in your face, the whole fucking thing. Slayer Hell Awaits. All right. Here is 7. Testament, The Legacy. This is their first album. It's I'll never forget. I actually remember getting out of my restaurant job as a kid. I think I just got a car and I drove to the mall and I bought this, and I went to a taco place and ate tacos. And I remember actually when I was in the taco place, I brought the CD in and opened it, was like looking at it. I couldn't wait to go home. And I was blown away. It's, you know, the songwriting is so amazing, but the thing that's, for me personally, was the lead guitar solos of Alex Skolnick. And as I listen to each song, I love all the songs on the album, but the solos are just like, they're just, you know, you got the song, and then when the solo comes in, you're just so waiting for these guitar solos, because they're all different, every single song. This crescendo of just amazing, mind-blowing lead guitar. And at the time, as me as a guitar player, I was starting to get pretty good. You know, so I was just starting to, I shouldn't say I was starting to get good, but I was starting to figure out how to get good. You know, just kind of sucking in every freaking influence I could find. And as a lead guitar player, this is one of the major influences. When I heard these songs, the guitar solos, I found myself just like listening to every song, just fast forward and with my remote control just to the guitar solo. And then I go to the next song, go right to the guitar over and over and over. And it was a gigantic, huge influence on me. And I don't, you know, Alex Skolnick's a god as far as I'm concerned on lead guitar. He has a unique sound that sounds like nobody else. He's got so much passion in his style, even though he's super technical and crazy. But when he gets to the nuances, the little vibratos and the slides, and I mean, to me, that's where I love the guitar the most. Is, you know, I love speed and complex stuff, but when it comes to solos, just the little parts that just have so much feeling. This guy's a fucking master. One of my major influences. All right, I guess we're at number 6. Morbid Angel, Blessed Are the Sick. All right, this came out, I believe, 91. Yes. This album, this is for a time for me personally when I was kind of really starting to, you know, I'd been into the Metallica and Anthraxes and the standard kind of stuff, and I was really starting to get into death metal. And this is one of the probably the 8th or 9th death metal albums that I bought. You know, I got introduced to, and right from the beginning, it's hard to describe. It just had this art kind of sound to it. It's like death metal, but right from the beginning groove, they had kind of like, you knew the dudes that were making this music were highly intelligent and really had a different view of how to do music. And every song in this album is so complex and so thought out, and the guitar parts are so unique. It's hard to describe. There's really no way I can describe this just by talking. This is one of those, of all the albums I'm doing, this is kind of one that's just, it's so out there. It was so, at the time, seeing all these guitar parts and then these crazy tap-on solos and the blast beats, but it was all very clear, and it just had this kind of artsy feel. You just kind of felt like, I don't know how to describe it. You felt these were not just like some hardcore heavy metal dudes. These guys were serious fucking musicians, and it comes across in the album, and it's a fucking masterpiece. There's not much more I can say. And when I saw them live and saw some of the songs on this, and I'm in a mosh pit trying to get my fucking ass beat in Detroit, but watching them actually play all the songs, some of the songs from this album, it was absolutely amazing. All right. Guess we're at number 5. Iron Maiden, Somewhere in Time. And anybody that knows me and watching my videos, I do lots of Iron Maiden videos. Iron Maiden is my favorite band of all time, period. This is like albums and discs, and I don't like to get into too much about favorites. It's all subjective. I love everything, but if anybody asks me, what's your favorite band of all time? It's just Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden, period, all the time. And this album, Somewhere in Time, is very, very special to me. It just, right from the beginning of the song, Somewhere in Time, when they kind of actually have these guitar synthesizers on it. It's like, the way it sounds like Somewhere in Time. It sounds like this space age sounding. The guitars just sound so electrified, and from every single song through the album, it's just an adventure. And this, for me, Adrian Smith, another one of my Adrian Smith is probably my all-time favorite guitar player. And on this album, he really gets to shine on his solos. His solos are they just sound like laser beams. Every note is just so emphasized, and there's multiple layers. They really spent a good amount of time really focusing on the guitar sound. As me as a guitar player, this album, of all the Iron Maiden albums, it just really sticks out. I can't say it's my favorite Iron Maiden. I don't think I could say I have a favorite Iron Maiden. I just love so many of them. But this one jumps out, and it's absolutely stunning. Like Alexander the Great. I think I covered that song, and it's just, every time I listen to that, it's just goosebumps. Pretty much this whole album is just a goosebump album for me. All right. Next, we've got, that's a good one. Cannibal Corpse, Eaten Back to Life. Now this fucking album, I will never forget. I'm just still all these years looking at this. I've had this CD for 30 years, pretty much 30 years. This cover still blows me away, and it was a case of, this is kind of like this when I was starting to get into heavier stuff. Because in the beginning, there's kind of two phases of my guitar playing, and I was Iron Maiden and Metallica and Megadeth. Then I, like I said, Slayer and Sepultura and some other stuff. And then I heard about this band, Cannibal Corpse. I think I read it in a magazine when I was, 16. Wow, what is this, Cannibal Corpse? And I remember going to the music store, and I actually had the tape. I bought the tape before I bought the CD. And I saw the tape, and I pulled it out, and I looked at that cover, and my jaw just dropped, and I'm like, this looks crazy. And I brought it home, and I put it in, and I had, at the time I had a giant fucking stereo system, and it didn't leave my stereo for months. That's all I listened to was in my Walkman. And musically, to today's standards, yes, there's mistakes. It's not perfect, but the aggression, they're so unique. The aggression sound on this album with the lyrics, which is just, that was kind of the thing. I remember taking the tape out of the cassette and pulling out the lyric book in school, at 10th grade, and like showing people, look at these lyrics. Oh my God. Because they're just so brutal and so off the chart. I mean, if any one of these songs were made in a movie, they're like quadruple X because the lyrics are so over the fucking top. And it blew my face off. And like I said, that was really when I was kind of starting to cross over into realizing I really wanted to play death metal more than thrash metal. It was kind of, and that's the other thing too. This is all brand new. This is when I got the cassette, it was brand new. It had only been out 8 or 9 months. No one even knew who Cannibal Corpse was. It was just a beginning, you know. It was just really exciting to be there at the beginning. And it wasn't easy to get some. Like I said, sometimes I had to order this stuff. It wasn't easy, you know, to get some of these albums. So it was always awesome when I had it on my hands and I would go home and play them. And this one, Cannibal Corpse, really was a kind of a turning point for me as a musician, as a guitar player, going, okay, I kind of want to go to this next level of super intense. All right, next. Malevolent Creation, the 10 Commandments. And actually, I don't know how this is going to come through the video. On my arm is actually the frickin', I don't know if you're going to see that or not, the album cover. So you can tell this is one of my favorites. This album was right in the beginning when I was getting into death metal. And this one is different than almost all the other ones I'd heard because it was so focused on this pure sound of sonic. Every song is, I guess I gotta mention the Scott Burns production on this. I think it's Scott Burns' greatest production of every album he's done. And Scott Burns is a legendary genius producer, engineer, who really put death metal on the map up in Tampa. And I personally believe this is his greatest production. It sounds so fucking amazing. It's hard to describe. It just has an apocalyptic feel for me. It sounds like the soundtrack for like fucking Mad Max 2, you know, Road Warrior on steroids. It's just got this apocalyptic sound. And this is one of the first death metal albums I got into where the lyrics were really about, a lot of them were about real fucking topics. You know, they got a song called Injected Sufferance. It's a death metal song about AIDS. And the way he sings it, Brett Hoffman, he just sounds like he's on fire. Like every time he sings, he just sounds like his body's literally on flames while he's singing it. And when you delve into the lyrics, all the lyrics are so awesome and complex and about real topics. And that was a huge eye-opener. This album was a gigantic eye-opener for me. Kind of like where Cannibal Corpse is over the top, kind of with gore and insanity. This is over the top about kind of reality. I mean, some of the songs are you know, maybe not necessarily horror topics, but kind of on that line. But so many of the songs in this album are about kind of real topics, and the music and the guitar and the drums, how they form together with Brett Hoffman's vocals, blew my mind. It still blows my mind. One of my all-time favorites, Malevolent Creation, the 10 Commandments. All right, we got 2 left. All right, here we go. Death, spiritual healing. This was, you know, it gets confusing the time frame of some of the albums I remember. This one, I definitely remember. Like I just was kind of got off Metallica, you know. Injustice for All was like my favorite album. And you know, I heard a little bit of Morbid Angel and a couple other things, but then I don't remember exactly how I got the Death. I think a friend of mine, you know, copied a tape for me, and it wasn't really that clear. And I just remember it was called Spiritual Healing, Death. And I went out and bought the cassette. Oh, I remember that. That was the real true album that really changed. It was kind of partial back and forth, where I'm like, okay, I want to go full on death metal. After listening to this album, I realized then, you know, that's what I wanted to kind of do. Because there is a big difference, you know. There's a difference between wanting to be in like a Metallica, Megadeth kind of band, rather than being in Morbid Angel or Napalm Death, there are different, you know. You're gonna have a lot more opportunity doing a much more mainstream style band like Metallica or Megadeth than you are gonna be doing in a band like Death. But for me, it just hit a nerve, and this album never left my CD player for months. Every song is so fucking good. In the lyrics, and that's what's cool about this particular album, Death, Spiritual Healing. You can really understand what Chuck Schuldiner is really saying. When you really delve into the lyrics, these are deep topics, you know. Even more than kind of like Malignant Creation, where Malignant Creation was more of an apocalyptic. This album is really more like, almost like New York Times topics done death metal style. And it was like, it blew me away. And the guitar solos with James Murphy are so fucking awesome on this album. It's another album where I would just fast forward and listen to the guitar solos. I mean, this album I just studied and worshipped for so long. And really, when I started Reasonable Deception, no question, one of my biggest influences was really Chuck Schuldiner, his style of writing the music and his, you know, writing about important topics rather than just stupid, you know, Satan crap or crap like that, you know. In gore, you know, Cannibal Corpse writes about gore, which I love. But I personally was really more driven to writing about real topics. And like in Reasonable Deception, pretty much all the songs I wrote were really about real topics that I researched. And, you know, I just didn't make stuff up. I really researched topics about real life reality, you know, mainly hardcore reality that no one wants to talk about, which fits perfectly into a death metal band. I can't say enough about Spiritual Healing. It's still, I mean, I don't go longer than a month without listening to at least some of it for pretty much 30 years. All right. Now, I could do videos forever about, I got so many CDs, I could take top 10s and do top 10s forever. But there is one #1 album for me personally, always. And this is the holy grail of all, not even my favorite metal album, but it's my favorite album of all genres. Because I love lots of stuff. I mean, I love Michael Jackson. I like listening to Stevie Wonder. I like listening to Madonna. I don't care, you know. I like CCR, Eagles, Beatles, blah, blah. But my #1 album of all time is this. Megadeth, Rust in Peace. This is the album that got me into playing guitar. I will never forget where I was.